from Sri Lanka, from Saudi Arabia as well. So, Alhamdulillah, we are doing well in that. In today's session, we've decided that we will discuss some important topics that are related to the renal. So, now renal is a very important topic as far as the exam point of view is concerned. There are a lot of important topics that would be there. For example, if Dr. Shamal, you can show the first slide that is showing the important renal topics. So these are the topics that you should be fully aware of. Although there are other topics as well, but these are the topics that are frequently encountered in the exam. That is the nephrotic syndrome, the nephritic syndrome. In nephritic syndrome, especially the post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, HSP, Alport, IgA nephropathy, and hemolytic uremic syndrome as well. Other topics include UTI, approach to a abdominal mass, especially a renal mass, and then you can have a discussion on acute and chronic renal failure as well as on the renal transplant. So we'll start with the first topic, that is the approach to a child with facial edema or facial puffiness. So this scenario you can encounter either in a short clinical station, or you can even encounter it in a history station where you have a child who is presenting with facial puffiness or facial swelling, or you can have the same child in a video station as well, where they can show you a child with facial puffiness and sometimes generalized body edema as well. So how to approach such a child? Now, it is very important to have the differentials. Whenever you enter the station or whenever a scenario is put forward, you must have a list of differentials. So, if you're sitting outside the station and you've been given that you have to take history from a mother whose child is having some facial swelling for past couple of days. So, what are the differentials that you should think of? You should be ready before you enter the station to have a list of differentials on your mind. Similarly, if you're watching a video station and you're seeing a child with facial swelling, you should have a list of differentials. And in the same way, if you have entered the clinical station and you see a child with a puffy face, you should have a list of differentials on your mind so that you can work through them. So the important differentials that would be there whenever a child with facial edema would be there would be nephrotic syndrome, can be nephritic, can be allergy or anaphylaxis as well. And along with that, other differentials that you can keep are chronic causes like protein losing enteropathy, chronic liver disease, and even cases of acute or chronic renal failure can also present with facial puffiness or generalized body edema. So these are the differentials that should be on your mind once you enter the station and you. So, so these are the differentials that you should keep in your mind when you are approaching a child with facial puffiness or facial edema. So we will start with the discussion of nephrotic syndrome, which is a very important topic. Okay. So in general, nephrotic syndrome is basically a condition that is characterized by nephrotic range proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, edema, or hyperlipidemia. So, nephrotic range proteinuria means that the protein in the urine is more than 40 milligram per meter square per hour, or if you are checking the dipstick, it is 3 plus to 4 plus, or urinary protein creatinine ratio is more than 2 to 3. So in some books it is mentioned 2 and some books it is mentioned 3 as well. So you can keep either values. Okay. So if any child is coming with facial swelling and you are doing a workup and you find out that this child is having a nephrotic range proteinuria with hypoalbuminemia, and hypoalbuminemia will in turn lead to edema, and along with that there would be hyperlipidemia as well. Okay. So if these criteria are fulfilled, you can label the child as having a nephrotic syndrome. So the clinical presentation of nephrotic syndrome is very important. Okay. It can vary from a simple uh, edema, which is the main presenting complaint, and it is often mistaken taken and treated as allergic reactions, especially in the peripheral clinics. So you can have a child with foamy urine, you can have a child with edema, which can in turn lead to weight gain, ascites, and then because of complications of edema, they can develop pleural effusion and even hypotension, shock, and syncope. Apart from that, the other presenting features are abdominal pain, which happens because of bowel wall edema and peritonitis. Infection and septicemia itself could be the manifestation as well. And as you move on and the child develops a complication, even seizures sometimes could be a presenting feature in an atypical nephrotic with hypertension or in a typical nephrotic with cerebral thrombosis. So this is a wide range of presentation that you will get. So when you are taking the history, you have to focus on the questions related to the edema, and you have to focus on the complications that the child might have developed over a period of time. Yes, Shumaila, you can change the slide.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize this point. Like sometimes they give you a scenario in which the child is puffy, so you have to find out the differentials, and these points are very important. Maybe this child can have headache because of secondary hypertension, or maybe this child you want to ask for the weight. How is the weight, and do you have any breathing difficulty, any increase in the tummy size, any swelling on the feet as well? So these points are important in the history. You have to ask about. That's why all the complications of the disease and the complications of the management is important from the history point of view.
Exactly. So these are some of the pictures of nephrotic syndrome. You can see a child with, the swelling around the eye, and the swelling generally starts with early morning periorbital puffiness that generally decreases as the day progresses. But as the day progresses, then the child starts to develop a generalized edema or anasarca. The child can have a distended tummy because of ascites, and a pitting edema can be seen on the legs as well. Now, the pathophysiology of nephrotic syndrome, you don't need to go into the details of it, okay? But if you are getting a scenario in the communication station, then the parents might ask you the question that why the child got the nephrotic syndrome. So you should be aware of the basic pathophysiology of nephrotic syndrome. That in most of the cases it is idiopathic. There is no explainable cause why a nephrotic happened. But in other cases, you have certain genetic syndromes that are associated with nephrotic, certain systemic illnesses like SLE, sickle cell, diabetes, they can lead to nephrotic, and other conditions like malignancies, and even certain drugs like heavy metals, penicillamine, they can also lead to nephrotic syndrome. So this slide is basically to emphasize that you should be able to answer the parents regarding the question as to why nephrotic happened to our child. Okay. Yes, Shumala. Okay. So now we'll quickly move on to the treatment of nephrotic syndrome and how do you manage. Okay, so we will go to the tests and investigation. So once on your history taking, you have identified that this child is a possible case of nephrotic, you have to do certain investigations. Okay, so what investigations you will do? The initial test will involve urine analysis. And in urine analysis, you are specifically looking for the proteins, you're looking for the red cells and for the cast and for the WBC. Apart from that, to find out whether it is a nephrotic range proteinuria, you have to do a urinary protein creatinine ratio. And then to check whether the other criteria for nephrotic are fulfilled, you will do the serum albumin, which would be generally less than 2.5. The lipid panel would be done where the values of the lipid profile would be more than 200 milligram per DL. And apart from that, other supportive investigations like a complete blood count and urinary and your renal functions and your electrolytes would also be required, because of course it's a condition that is affecting the kidney. Now, in order to rule out secondary causes of nephrotic, although you know that 90% of the cases of nephrotic, they are idiopathic and they are steroid sensitive nephrotic, which is because of minimal change disease. But in other 10%, there could be an underlying cause to the nephrotic syndrome. So you might have to do some additional workup that would include the testing for hepatitis B, C, and HIV. You might have to check for the complement levels, and you might have to check for some autoimmune pathology, and you can go for ANA, anti-DS DNA in selected patients. Apart from this, in other groups, you might require to do a genetic testing, you might require an ultrasound of the kidneys, maybe a chest x-ray Montauk's test to start the treatment, and a renal biopsy as well. So these are the important investigations that you would need to do when you are going to diagnose the nephrotic. So in the exam also, you need to start with the specific and the most relevant investigations, and then move on to the ones that are required later. So how do you manage nephrotic syndrome would be the next question that we would be expected to answer. So of course, whenever the question of management comes, you mention the teams, you mention the investigations, and then you move on to the medications. So the teams that you would require would be a consultant pediatrician, a nephrologist, a dietitian, and of course social support, and maybe some other facilities you might require depending upon the reason of the nephrotic. Okay. So once you have involved the team, the treatment of the very first episode of nephrotic syndrome, what you need to do is the very first episode of nephrotic syndrome, if it is there, the child definitely needs to be admitted. Okay. So the child would be required to be admitted, and there can be some supportive treatment and some specific treatment that can be offered. In supportive treatment, you have to offer a high protein, no added salt diet. You have to monitor the intake output, daily weight, and because you're going to start steroids, you will start the child on proton pump inhibitors. Okay. In the specific management, you have to start steroids, which is prednisolone at the dose of 60 milligram per meter square per day for 4 to 6 weeks. And once the urine will be negative for 3 consecutive days after 4 to 6 weeks, you are going to taper the dose to 40 milligram per meter square per day every alternate day as a single morning dose. And that would be tapered over the next 6 to 8 weeks. So that is the management of the first episode of nephrotic. So if it is the first episode of nephrotic syndrome, you have to admit the child, you have to start him on steroids, you have to continue high doses of steroids till 6 weeks, and you have to make sure that the child has entered the remission, and then you are going to taper it off to 40 milligram per meter square per day as alternate daily dose, and you will taper it off over the period of next 2 to 3 months. Now, of course, the child might be having some complications like generalized edema and asarca. The child can have hypovolemia, hypotension. So if these complaints are there, these have to be managed side by side with diuretics, with the albumin infusions. Okay, so on and so forth. Apart from this, in the supportive treatment, don't forget to mention about immunization. Okay, you have to immunize the child for influenza, pneumococcal, and varicella. And especially because they are live vaccines, you are going to immunize the child once the child has, entered the remission. Okay, you have to avoid all live vaccines. This is the uh, education that you have to give to the parents whenever the child is on steroids. Live vaccines have to be avoided. And there is a role of antibiotic prophylaxis in selected cases only now, where the immunization is not, fully done, or if the child is developing complications or is on immunosuppressive therapy. So this will be the management of nephrotic. So the very first episode of nephrotic syndrome has to be hospitalized. You have to start steroids, and you have to mention all the supportive treatment that you need to give. If it is a subsequent episode of nephrotic syndrome, which is a relapse of nephrotic, then of course the supportive treatment would be the same. But in specific treatment, you are going to give steroids, but you are going to give high doses of steroid until the child enters the remission. Now you don't need to wait for good 6 to 8 weeks. So you started the steroid at the same dose of 60 milligram per meter square per day, and once your child enters the remission, which means 3 negative or trace proteinuria for 3 consecutive days. It means your child has entered the remission. Once the child has entered the remission phase, you will immediately switch to the low dose of steroid, that is 40 milligram per meter square per day, alternate day doses, and then you're going to taper it off over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Now, it is very important that what you have to tell to the parents, especially if this is coming in your communication scenario. So you need to know how to explain the parents about the nephrotic syndrome. You have to, you have to follow, certain, protocol when you are doing the communication station. But when you are coming to explain the diagnosis, you can tell that, the child has a condition called nephrotic syndrome, and then you will give some time for the parents to respond, and you will ask whether they have heard about this condition before, and then you can give an explanation that this is a condition that affects the kidneys. Okay, maybe you can give a short explanation of kidneys are bean shaped organs that are present in the tummy, and they are responsible for filtering the blood and making the urine. So in this condition, nephrotic syndrome, basically the kidney becomes leaky. The filter in the kidney becomes leaky and starts to leak large amount of proteins into the urine, because of which the child develops, body swelling and other problems. Okay, so that is how you're going to explain it. So regarding the patient education, you have to tell that, this condition nephrotic has a relapsing course. There is a high chances of, relapses. But as the child enters into the teenage and then into the adulthood, the chances of relapses becomes less. But, there are chances that the child might continue to have this condition even in the adulthood. Okay, but generally this condition does not affect the kidney function, and the kidney does not go into failure until unless, there's some other pathology underlying the problem. Apart from this, you have to tell about the urinary protein testing. Okay, whenever the child is sick, it has to be done every day. When the child is in remission, at least twice weekly they have to check. Okay, and so this is very important, that how frequently they have to monitor the urine for protein, and when they need to see the doctor. So whenever it is 2 plus or more, they have to check with the doctor. And then you have to encourage normal activity, and you have to ensure immunization, which is very important, because they are at risk of more chances of infection are there because of their immunosuppressive state.
So, would you like to ask anyone from the group? We will just take a short a question and answers regarding the topic, what we have discussed so far. Because previously the group people, our own group people, they know about this thing, so they might have read about it. For the new people, because we are beginning the discussion, it incorporates the important stations in the history, in the video, and in the communication as well. So any questions you are being asked about it, you should be knowing about it, specifically if it comes in the communication or the video station or maybe in the history station. So these are the areas which you need to be covering about it, because nephrotic is a very important topic. So if you have any questions so far in the presentation. If anybody wants to ask any question, they can unmute themselves and they can ask. Otherwise, we will carry on with the discussion.
So I think we'll carry on then. Okay, so these are few important definitions that you should be aware of. What is remission? What is relapse? Who are frequent relapses? What is steroid dependent nephrotic? What is steroid resistance? Okay, so please make sure that you are aware of these definitions. Remission is generally when the urinary protein is less than or 1 plus for 3 consecutive days. Then you say that the child has entered into the remission. Relapse means the presence of reappearance of proteinuria with 3 plus or 4 plus on dipstick for 3 or more consecutive days. Okay. Then you have frequent relapses, which is 2 or more relapses in 6 months or more than 4 relapses in a year. Then you have steroid dependent nephrotic syndrome. These are the ones who would relapse on either alternate day regime or within 2 weeks of stopping the steroids. And then you have steroid resistant nephrotic as well, in which there is a failure to achieve remission even with the 8 weeks course of prednisolone. So these definitions are very important, because once the child is, having a difficult to treat nephrotic, it is one of the indications of renal biopsy and an indication to be referred to a nephrologist. So, this is a very important question. If you have a case of nephrotic, the examiner will ask you what are the indications of renal biopsy in a case of nephrotic. So, in all cases of nephrotic, generally we don't take them for renal biopsy, but there are certain indications like in less than 1 year or more than 10 years, presence of, atypical features like persistent hematuria, low complement levels, sustained hypertension, renal failure, and similarly, if there is any extra renal symptomatology like a rash or joint pain, that might indicate an underlying autoimmune condition. Okay. And of course, any nephrotic that is either frequent relapser, steroid dependent, or steroid resistant, they are also candidates of renal biopsy.
So some of the indications are the same as when you are referring the child to a nephrologist, because when you are asking in the history what teams the child is being following, and if the mom tell you about it, like maybe he's following the nephrologist or any procedures has been done. So that's why you have to incorporate this thing in the history scenarios as well. Okay, once we will practice the history and communication, you should be knowing about these things so that you are asking the relevant questions for the history.
And then you should be aware of, this is the management of a typical nephrotic that would respond to the steroid treatment. But you will have cases like frequent relapses, steroid resistant, okay, uh, and steroid dependent, that would require some other drugs. So, or if the child is responding to steroid but is getting the side effects of steroids, okay, so in that situation
Other
also.
drugs, maybe the examiner will ask you what other treatment options you have if the child is not responding on steroids.
Exactly.
What is the
So
second
then,
line treatment?
yes, so these are the second line drugs. These are all immunosuppressive agents. Like you can give IV methylprednisolone pulse therapy, and you can then have immunosuppressive drugs like mycophenolate, which is commonly known as Cellcept. You can start cyclophosphamide, cyclosporine, and tacrolimus. So you should be aware of the names of few of the drugs that are used apart from steroid. If steroid is not working, or if is.
هذا ما ياكل ساعه فاكهه واحده من عنده ما سوت فائده. مع المقصر صح؟
So now coming to the complications of nephrotic syndrome, again, it's a very important area. Okay, so you will have either the complications of the disease itself or complication of the treatment. So the disease itself, can lead to, hypoalbuminemia, that can then lead to edema and asarca, because the child is losing a lot of proteins and immunoglobulins in the urine. The child becomes prone to infections. That is why infections like UTI, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, pneumonias, they become very common in these children. Because of hypoalbuminemia, they can go into hypovolemia, shock, uh, and because they are losing a lot of anticoagulants in the urine, so the procoagulant factors are increased in the blood, leading to thrombotic complications as well. So children can develop cerebral thrombosis, pulmonary embolisms, deep vein thrombosis, renal vein thrombosis is a very important complication. So, and of course, the complications that come with any chronic disease, like a psychological impact, growth delay, pubertal delays, would be, of course, there. Then you have adverse effect of the steroids and adverse effect of the other immunosuppressive drugs. And you should be very, very well versed with the side effects of the steroids and some of the side effects of the commonly used immunosuppressive medications. So these are the side effects of the steroids, and you can start from the head and you can go till the toe. That steroid can affect a lot of systems. It can cause psychosis, it can cause cataracts, oral thrush, it can cause immunosuppression, hypertension, high blood pressure, high blood sugars, gastritis, avascular necrosis of the femoral head, myopathies. Okay, so all of these are the complications that come with the steroid. It can cause osteopenia, okay, poor bone density, and these complications. So coming to the next slide, mycophenolate, it's a good slide to remember that most of the side effects that the CellCept or mycophenolate gives us, the abdominal pain, swelling of the legs, okay. Headache and hypertension is a very, very important complication that comes with mycophenolate. Okay, so especially when we started with children, they come with headache, they come with high blood pressure. So this high blood pressure is not because of the disease itself, but because of the drug that we are using. Similarly, you have cyclophosphamide. Cyclophosphamide is, you should be, knowing the side effects. It's a very favorite exam question because the examiners, they want to ask if you are aware that whether it can cause hemorrhagic cystitis, it causes bone marrow suppression. It's an immunosuppressive drug, so of course it can cause disseminated infections and it can cause gonadal toxicity. And whenever you start cyclophosphamide, you have to take consent from the parents and you have to make them aware about the gonadal toxicity, because this is something that can leave the child infertile for life.
So actually, these immunosuppressive drugs are important because some of the history scenarios, when they come in exam, the history station, you have good 6 to 7 minutes with the examiner for the viva. So definitely it comes to that point. Some of the autoimmune conditions in SLE or in maybe cases of arthritis or maybe cases of nephrotic, they can lead to the second generation of medications apart from steroids. So the immunosuppressive drug side effects are important, especially for the history station where the examiner is having 7-8 minutes with you for the viva. So just remember the important side effects so that you are fluent with the examination. Don't miss any marks, because even 1 to 2 marks are very important in the end you have, and you don't want to lose them.
Similarly, you have cyclosporine and tacrolimus, both of which are calcineurin inhibitors. Tacrolimus is something that is commonly used, so you should be knowing that alopecia, hyperkalemia, nephrotoxicity is important, okay? And for cyclosporine, you have, instead of alopecia, you generally get hypertrichosis, and rest of the side effects are generally the same.
So actually, this is the discussion about nephrotic, and we will share this presentation with the group so that once we are doing the mocks with the history, communication, and video, you should be knowing about the answers to the questions which will come up. The other thing is we will do some other renal cases as well. And if you have any other questions, you can ask right now before moving on to the other cases. This is the next approach to a child with red urine, and we will be sending a new link for the next presentation. So please, if you have any questions regarding this meeting, you can ask it now. Otherwise, we are ending this session and we are going to share our next link where we will discuss about the causes for hematuria. Okay, so I just saw the message for the slide message were there for some doctor, but in between you can unmute yourself if you want to say anything, because I didn't check the message before. We are sending another link and we will continue with the presentation. I suppose there are no questions till now, so we will be seeing you again in the next meeting.